Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the BeliefCast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swap & Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. The visionaries behind Thread wallets. These wallets redefine style and functionality. Dave Philippi from Micro Plus, pushing the boundaries of nanotechnology and scientific research to bring us cutting-edge supplements for optimal health. The Ralphs and the Debenhams, creators of Mori Nutrition and Calm. Because if you're struggling with sleep, feeling stressed, or can't focus, Calm is your answer. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode. And finally, Gab Wireless, letting kids be kids and giving parents the peace of mind they deserve. Right now, Gab is offering $25 off any device to new customers with no contract required. That's $25 off any Gab smartphone or smartwatch. Just go to gab.com/belief. That's where you'll get the best deal. That's gabb.com/belief. Thank you to all these amazing sponsors for supporting the BeliefCast podcast and empowering us to continue spreading positivity and inspiration to the world. And we are back. This is Todd Sylvester, the host of the BeliefCast. As always, thank you for tuning in. It means the world to me. I appreciate all your support and for sharing these episodes with your loved ones. It really does make an impact and a difference in their lives, and it really helps us kind of grow what we're doing here. And I just love hearing the stories of people who have been touched by a certain guest that I've brought on. And you guys have to admit, the people that I bring on here, they're amazing. It's fantastic. And it's just week after week, it's just amazing. People are astonishing. So thank you so much. Again, a shout out to my sponsors. I couldn't do this without you. So thank you for helping me do this as well. So today, guys, you're in for a treat. We are joined by Alex Fredrickson. Alex, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Alex reached out to me a little while ago. He knows my dad. They work out at the Treehouse together. You're a personal trainer there.
I am, yes.
You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're 5.5 years clean and sober, which is congrats to that as well.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You've got quite the story. I think you're struggling with addiction for over 2 decades.
Yep.
You've got your own personal fitness program that you do as well.
I do.
And I'm looking forward to hear more about that. But you're all about, just your life looks like, the perseverance and the triumph over something very difficult. And it's not just addiction, it's other things as well, which we're going to get into. So, guys, you're in for it. This is going to be wonderful. So, Alex, why don't we start off with, let our listeners know, where did you grow up, and tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, thanks for having me. So, born and raised actually here in Salt Lake City. Lived here my entire life. Okay. I just turned 42 in December. I grew up just north of here, just in the Mill Creek Holiday area. Okay. Went to Olympus High School.
Olympus.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
Titans.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah. And what Titans are famous for is basketball. I played a lot of basketball, a lot of sports throughout my entire life. And that's really, good childhood growing up. Parents were awesome. I was the oldest of 3 siblings, and then I have an older stepsister, and for the most part, everything was really, really good. Yeah. I was really good in school, had really good grades. I was the tallest one, and so basketball came supernatural to me.
Yeah.
And
Olympus always seems to be really right there at the end with basketball. They're so good.
They're amazing. Their coach, Matt Barnes, who
I played against Matt Barnes.
Did you
That's
really?
How old I am.
No way.
So when I played at Brighton High School, we played Olympus, and Matt Barnes and I guarded each other.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. He's such a great coach. So he's
amazing.
He was I can't remember, maybe 2 or 3 years brand new when I got there. So when I was a sophomore, he was pretty brand new, and he's still there to my knowledge. He's gotten quite a few state titles under his belt now. So
back to back, I think, a few of those.
Yeah. He's an awesome guy.
Did you ever know George Suval?
Yes. Yes.
So he had a basketball camp right there in the Olympus area. He lived on God, what's the name of that street? Anyway, he was amazing. I went to his basketball. That's where I first met Matt, actually.
Okay.
He was at that basketball camp as well.
Okay.
And then we just happened to play in a preseason game against
very
each
nice.
other, which was really cool.
Yeah, he's very competitive.
Yeah, he is.
He's a competitive
we
guy.
went at it. It was awesome.
Yeah. He would push us to the limit, but it was fun. Every single morning we wake up and that was it. It was sports and pretty good childhood growing up.
Yeah. We were talking about your dad off the air, and your dad, someone you obviously look up to. He's been through some similar battles, and
absolutely,
he has since passed away. So shout out to your dad.
Thank you.
But growing up, I know this is a big question because there's a lot of ground to cover there, if you will. But what were some of the biggest lessons you learned from your mom and dad, would you say?
I would say the biggest thing, work ethic. Being genuine to other people, really being courteous, going out of your way. Both my parents, they were the first person to drop everything that they were doing and help someone else.
Okay.
My dad was a firefighter for Salt Lake City for 38 years. My brother is still a firefighter for Salt Lake City.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was supposed to follow the footsteps until I found out what they actually had to do.
Yeah.
I'd be fine, being the guy to run into a burning building and drag people out on my shoulders, but the medical stuff I'm a little squeamish with.
Sure.
And unfortunately that's the majority of the runs that they go on.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. That stuff I couldn't stomach that.
I would be I don't think I'd make it too long, but yeah, to get back to the question, it was a lot, just hard work is more than anything of what they instilled in me. Going above and beyond, really focusing on the things that are important. And just being nice to other people.
What a gift that is. I work with a lot of clients who they've got all the knowledge they need, all the tools we equip, ready to go, but they're not willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
So what a gift that you were taught the value of hard work.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to.
It really
more
does.
Than anything, you can outwork anyone. You can be the dumbest guy in the room and you outwork someone and you're going to win.
I love that.
You're going to win.
So obviously you played sports growing up. What do you think were some of the takeaways that you learned from playing sports?
Oh, just the competition aspect of it, and just pushing yourself to be better. Again, going back to the hard work, like doing the reps, doing the practice, staying after practicing on the weekends, but just the camaraderie of team sports. There's nothing better.
Right.
And I love hearing, even our members at Treehouse. I train some of their kids that are just coming up in football.
Yeah.
And I see that, that competitive fire in their eyes. And I remember how that was, and sports is their entire life, and as it was for mine. And hats off to my parents and my siblings. They got dragged to every single game and every single practice that I had. Made a lot of sacrifices for me, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
sports are awesome.
Yeah, they really are, and they teach so many more lessons than just the game itself.
Totally.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some of obviously the challenges you have faced. We mentioned you struggled with addiction for about 2 decades.
Yep.
Talk about, maybe when did that all start and what was going on, and kind of start from there and share that with us.
So it was sports that led to it. So junior year, that summer, getting ready to play senior year, had all the ambitions in the world I was going to the NBA. That's what I had put in my head,
Yeah,
and
sure.
And I remember we were doing a summer practice. Matt Barnes was there, and I tore my ACL in practice. And I didn't even know. Everyone knows what ACLs are now because of watching, the sports and everything.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't know what a torn ACL was. I didn't know what it
you're
felt like.
Yeah.
My knee really hurt, and it swole up, and I let it, simmer down. And then 3 days later, I would try and practice again. It would blow up. So I finally went to the doctor. He told me what it was. Told me it's really, really bad, and I had to have surgery.
Wow.
So I have surgery. Everything goes well. But of course, what do they give you with surgery? They give you opiates.
Yeah.
Now, up to this point in my life, I had never touched a drug, a drink, anything.
Really?
Didn't even think about it. I saw I didn't see. I kind of remember because they were so young. My parents were both alcoholics. So they got sober when I was about 4 years old. Okay. So I remember glimpses of like kind of how they were. And then throughout the years, even though I was young and I didn't fully understand it, my dad was very, very big into Alcoholics Anonymous, and he would go to meetings religiously.
What was his nickname?
Firefighter Mike.
Mike.
He's
a lot of people might know that.
A lot of people know him. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah, he made quite an impact on people. But so it was just put into my head that you don't do drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And again, really good parenting and brought up that way.
Yeah.
So as soon as the surgery's over, and of course they give you those, it was like a switch got flipped in my brain immediately.
Wow.
Immediately. And I will never forget, second or third day, and I'm crutching to the kitchen. I was laying up in the living room on the little sofa bed, and I'm crutching to the kitchen, and I'm looking for my bottle of pills. And my mom happened to see me, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, my knee hurts. I need more. I need more. And I remember later that day, or maybe it was the day after, and she said, "I just want to talk to you about that." She's like, "I'm not accusing you of anything, but those things, people can really have a problem with those.
Right.
And they're really, really addicting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to be aware of it." And that was it. And then she left it at there. But like I said, as soon as that entered my body, it was something completely like anything I've ever felt before. And I truly believe because of this, and there's a lot of talk about whether you're born with the disease, whether, where it comes from. Where does that disease of alcoholism addiction come from? I believe that it was that I was born with it. And that was the thing that triggered it.
That set it off.
Yep.
Wow.
And so after that, I rehabbed my knee, did everything, still had all the ambitions in the world, and my knee just wasn't there. It wasn't ready enough for me to play senior year of basketball. And so I didn't make the team.
Oh, wow.
And that was heartbreaking.
I bet that was devastating.
That was devastating. Yeah.
Especially when you had your heart set, I'm going to the NBA.
That was
I'm playing ball. This is my thing.
That's all that I knew, was just playing sports, and all my friends made the team. All the guys that I had grown up with since elementary, these are the guys that I had played with every single year. We played AAU. We played, that's who we were. We were just the basketball guys. And so when I didn't make that, it was a pretty big gut punch.
I bet.
And so after that, my mind kind of started to talk me into, well, it's okay to start having a drink. All your other friends were in high school. Everyone's starting to party. Everyone's, playing around with this and that.
Yeah. And
I remember that, it was spring break of senior year, first time that I drank alcohol. Absolutely loved it. And it wasn't a little alcohol that I had. I mean, it was off to the races the first time it hit my system. And that was it, and then it was on, and then it started to be every single weekend. And then it was even, during the week sometimes. And, my dad and mom having personal experience with it. My dad's still going to AA meetings all the time. They started to see the patterns.
Sure. How old were you at this point?
This was senior year.
Still your senior year.
Yep.
Okay.
18. Yep. And I remember coming home. I had driven my Bronco home, and I was definitely intoxicated, and my mom knew it 100%. My siblings were still awake, And I remember I kind of thought I was sneaky and, crept downstairs. She came down. She's like, "Where's your keys?" Grabbed my keys. She's like, "I'll have your dad talk to you in the morning." And I went to sleep. When I woke up that morning, they walked me across the street because my siblings were there. That was a Friday night, and they walked me across the street, and my mom and my dad, and they said, I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. They said, "You are going to meet people in your life that are able to have a drink or two and put it away and be good. We're telling you right now, you are not that person.
Yeah.
We know what is inside of you
For sure.
because we had it inside of us."
Yeah.
And as much as I remember that, and I remembered it throughout my entire journey, I didn't want to listen. I wanted to test my theory myself.
Yeah.
And so then, like I said, that was it. And I graduated with a really good GPA. I started going to Salt Lake Community College, and it just progressed more and more and more. Pretty much every single month got worse and worse.
Were you trying to hide it at that point, knowing that your parents were on you like that?
I mean, yes, to a certain point, but that's when the ego really started to kick in. I got this. I'm going to do my own thing.
Right.
I don't care what you guys think.
No one can tell me what to do.
Exactly. And so, I went to Salt Lake Community College for a little bit, and then I was like, "Oh, this isn't my thing." And I actually started in a multi-level marketing business, and through that whole experience, one day one of my buddies asked if I had ever heard of OxyContin, and I had never heard of it. That word, it was the first time I had ever heard that word.
Right.
And he knew a guy that had access to it. And all of a sudden, there was an unlimited supply of these things. And the first time that I did one of those, it was unlike anything I had ever done in my entire life. And that was it. That it was those old, the old school OxyContins that, since they've tried to take off the market and they've switched the composition of the pill and all that. But that was it. That was the one. And at this point, I was probably about 22, 23, and I'd actually, a buddy from high school, from Olympus, we decided to start a carpet cleaning business. And at this point, I was still functional. I was doing it, but I was still very, very ambitious. I always wanted to own my own business. The hardworking aspect kicked in.
It was kicking in.
Exactly. And so we opened this carpet cleaning business, and we were actually really, really, really successful, really quick. We got every single movie theater from Ogden all the way down to Provo. So all the Cinemarks, all the Carmikes, all the Centuries, big accounts.
That's big accounts, yeah.
The problem with that, though, is we had to start cleaning those at midnight. And we had to wait until the theater was cleared out.
Yeah.
And we would clean throughout the entire night, and then we'd go home and take a little, 2-hour power nap, and then we'd run our daily business. And what I found worked really, really well to keep me through that was drugs, And so that's when like the cocaine kicked in, And so then it was a mixture of the uppers and downers, and because we were doing so well at a very young age, I had a lot of money coming in, and I was able to support this habit. And that ego that I was talking about earlier really started to fire up. And it's like, I'm making a lot of money. I found a way to do this that no one can tell me anything.
Right.
I bought a house at a very young age up in North Salt Lake, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. Fortunately, that didn't last, extremely long. And my business partner started to see how bad, he knew what was going on, and he was okay with it for a little bit, and then it just kept getting worse and worse. And finally it got to that critical point where it's so funny, all these first things that I'm very familiar with now. I remember one night, this is why my dad was still alive, and him and my mom were kind of going through it. They had actually gotten divorced right before this before this carpet cleaning expedition.
Oh, okay.
But he calls me up and he said, we're going to have dinner at your mom's house now. And I said, okay, that's kind of weird. And I said, yeah, that's great. And, call over some of your friends. Your brother and sister are going to be there. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's get the whole family back together. This will be a great thing. So I walk in and then all of a sudden I realized what's going on. And it was the intervention, and it was the first one that I had ever had. And my dad was the headliner of it, and he's obviously done many of them before.
Right.
And that was when it was out. There was no hiding it. It was, this is a problem, Alex. What are we going to do? They offered me treatment. They offered me everything under the sun. And I said, no, I'm good. I got this. And, to their credit, and especially my dad's, I love him still to this day. He enabled me really, really, excessively, and I was able to talk my way out of, hey, why don't I try this? Why, I can do this. It's not that out of control. I remember he took me to a couple of AA meetings and I just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that ended up transpiring from that intervention is I went with him and I talked with a doctor, and all I did is I sat down with the doctor and I said, hey, I'm addicted to Oxycontin. And she's like, okay, here, just take some sleeping pills, just sleep it off, and just don't take any for a couple days and you'll be good to go. And I was like, cool. Yeah.
Right.
Where's that prescription?
Yeah. Wow.
And that was as far as it went. Obviously that didn't work.
Right.
And I came to an ending point. My business partner gave me an option after that. He said, look, man, you got to either pick this or you got to sell your half of the business, because if not, you're going to bankrupt it. Something's going to happen.
Right.
You're driving these vans around, completely inebriated, like something really bad's going to happen. And, he had just had his son, he had calmed down, he would party with us here and there, but he saw me and I really kind of sobered him up, because he saw how out of control it was getting.
Yeah,
he didn't want to follow my footsteps.
Like, I don't want to do that.
Yep. So, again, wasn't ready. I ended up selling my half to him, spent all that money that, from the business on drugs for the most part.
Jeez.
Had to sell my house because it was going into foreclosure. Actually ended up making money by selling that house, spent all that money on it. So within the matter of 2 or 3 years, I would say there was several $100,000s just blown on that. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. All too common.
Yeah.
Man, jeez.
So, after that, I, bounced around from job to job. I ended up being an employee with my former business partner. That didn't work out. I actually tried to move up to Logan to get sober. I had a buddy that was going to Utah State up there, and he heard how bad I was doing, and he said, why don't you come up here and you can just, clean up. And that didn't end up well. I ended up getting all of them in on it, and then we were driving down to Salt Lake and driving back to Logan, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I actually tore my ACL a second time. And I was up in Logan for a couple years, and I talked my dad into, I was still under his insurance since he was a firefighter till I was 26 years old.
Oh, okay.
So I said, Dad, why don't you let me move back? I'm going to have my second ACL surgery. I'll stay with you and I'll do, I'm good. And so he let me move in with him. Him and my mom had completely separated at this point, divorced. And I moved in with him, got that second knee surgery, completely blew off physical therapy that I'm paying for it big time today. This right knee is pretty rough.
Really?
Pretty rough.
Still
yeah.
hurting.
I'm on the point of, maybe a knee replacement in the
Dang.
not so distant future. So,
Yeah.
and of course, what do the doctors give you when you have knee surgery? And I milked that, every way. At this point, I was a little bit more experienced on how to, and this is kind of before the whole opiate, the society and, everything has kind of opened their eyes to how big of a problem that is. This was kind of on the tail end of that.
Right.
And when you could really push doctors to give you more, make this excuse, okay, I'll keep giving you a prescription, keep giving you another one.
Right.
And so it just kept going. It kept going and kept going. And I moved out of my dad's place, moved in with a friend, actually had quite a few decent jobs. That hard work that was instilled in me it allowed me to keep some really good jobs. So I worked in the hospitality business. I worked up at the Waldorf Astoria. I worked at the Marriott City Center downtown. I worked at the Grand America. All his bellmans or bell captains. and it was really fun. It was really, really cool. Problem is, in any time of hospitality or service-based industry, like restaurants and that, a lot of partying going on, and so it just kind of fueled that fire. And we just, I just kept running and gunning. And the ego was still so high. At that point, I knew that I was really in trouble. I knew that there was something bad, but I just wasn't willing to give it up. So fast forward to 2011, 2010, my dad, out of the blue, gets diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma brain cancer.
Oh, boy.
38 years as a Salt Lake City firefighter, getting ready to retire. Him and his girlfriend at that time flew to Hawaii. He got over there, completely just passed out. They got him back to the States, had no idea what was going on. Got that diagnosis, and it was pretty much immediately terminal once they found it.
Right.
They said he's got about a year. That was the hardest part, out of this entire addiction. All my dad kept saying, I know all he wanted me to do was to get sober and be there for him, be there for the family.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop. In fact, I only kept going more and more and more.
Worse.
Yeah. And I watched him deteriorate, and I'll never forget, how hard it was to see that. And, and the last thing, that he said to me is just be here, just be there for me. And I wasn't able to do that, and he passed away in 2011. And then the day of his funeral was May 2nd, 2011. And that was his sobriety birthday. So that day was 25 years of sobriety for him. And so we had the whole Salt Lake City Fire Department there. We had all of his Alcoholics Anonymous family there. Yeah. And then all of our family. So it was a packed house. Yeah, it was a packed house. And as soon as it was over, the whole family is meeting up at a restaurant downtown, and I went with my friends and went and got loaded because I couldn't handle it. And that was really like the catalyst that kicked it, from bad to extreme.
Yeah.
After that, the money started to run out, and so I couldn't afford the designer pills anymore. And so you go to the next thing that's available, and then it was heroin. It was heroin. It was crack. It was meth. It was literally everything that I could get my hands on. And I would stay at my mom's. She would kick me out. I lived in this terrible little apartment downtown. I would scrape together, another good job or two, get some money, find another place, get kicked out of that for not paying rent. And it just, and it just kept going and going. 2017, I was about down and out, and there was an old girlfriend of mine that reached out on Facebook. She didn't reach out to me personally. She put some post up, and I replied to her, and she immediately responded, and we ended up, meeting up, and this was like I said, a girlfriend that we had dated right before kind of that carpet cleaning thing.
Yeah.
I kind of hinted to her what was going on, and she had just barely gotten through a really bad divorce. She had gone through 8 years of sobriety and then had just recently relapsed. And so she was living downtown, and within a matter of, it was probably 2 weeks of us, getting back to dating, I'd moved in with her. And so again, I was at the end of my road, and I had found this other source, to do, to kind of bail me out. We started to find out, things about each other. She was the worst alcoholic I've ever seen in my entire life. Worst alcoholic. And we lived downtown, and I don't know if, your viewers are probably familiar. the block of what the block used to do. So the block was walking distance away from where we lived.
Okay.
And so Erin, and the reason I tell you this, I'll fast forward. Erin today has turned into my wife. Okay. So this girl is my
really?
wife today. Okay. And so we'll get to this story, of how this whole transpired. But anyway, so she would drink, and she had actually a really, really good job. And then she would pass out, and then I would go to the block, and I'd do my thing and come back. And this went on for a while. And then she had a really bad injury. She was at a Smith's one day, that one downtown, and she blacked out and hit her head, just completely passed out in the middle of the Smith's, knocked herself out, was bleeding out of her ears, and turned white, started convulsing, rushed her to the hospital, and we ended up at IMC, and she had about 8 doctors surrounding her. And her brain was bleeding so bad that they're like, if we don't do brain surgery, she's going to die. And if we do this brain surgery, she might not ever speak again. She might not ever be able to see. She might not be able to talk. But there's so much pressure in her brain that was the only thing.
Right. And
they said, we're going to monitor it, but if it gets any worse, we have to go. And so we were in that, surgery room, and that first night they kept checking on her every 20 minutes, and it got a little bit better. So we made it through the first night, and then we were in the ICU for, I believe it was about 6 days, monitoring her. And keep in mind, this whole time, my addiction had taken over me so much that I would leave and go do my thing, go meet the guy or whatever, and then I would go back to the hospital as she, just came up out of her deathbed. Like, that's how much that addiction had me. And so she finally was able to pull out of it, and we were in the hospital for a total of probably 10, 12 days. And we got home, and I gave her an ultimatum. This is, my ego. I said, you can never have alcohol again. Like, you're literally going to die. You have to pick one or the other. At this point, she didn't realize like what I had been doing. She knew that I was, kind of doing some stuff here and there. She had no idea, because she was she's always been alcoholic. She'd never done drugs before in her entire life. So I remember she quit alcohol completely, went through all the withdrawals on our apartment floor. It was horrible to watch. And then shortly after, she's in a lot of pain, and she finds some of my drug paraphernalia in the room, and she asked what it was. And I honestly, I lied to her a little bit about what it actually was. I didn't have the heart to tell her. But what I did tell her is that if you do a little of this, you'll probably feel better. And she was in so much pain that she's like, okay, I'll try it. Yeah. And that went on for about a month or so. And then I didn't have the heart to let her to go on anymore. And so I finally broke down one night and told her what it actually was that we were doing. She was so naive. She had no idea what we were really doing, that it was heroin.
Right.
And I was ready. I had my bags packed, and I was ready. I thought I was going on the streets. I was like, she's going to kick me out. We're done. And she saw how much, immediately it all clicked, that how this is what he's been going through. Oh my gosh, this is, this all makes sense. And she was actually okay with it. And so that turned into a 2.5 year hiatus of me and her going absolutely crazy and burning everything down on her side. Jeez. And I introduced her to all the things that we know how to do. I introduced her to pawn shops and payday loans and all of the ways to sell furniture and to any way to get money, cleared out her retirement. All these things happened in such a short amount of time. So now we're in 2019, and we had gotten kicked out of multiple places, and her dad had this old beat up house up right by Skyline. She went to Skyline. And he used it for an office here and there, but it had no heat, no power, no water, no toilet in it. And he said, Alex can stay here for a little bit. You were staying with us at our house. You guys got to figure it out. And we were in that, hold up shack. I mean, there was nights that other people that were homeless tried to break into it because they knew that it was empty.
Yeah, right.
And I'm in there. There was one outlet that worked. And so we had the power surge with 14 things plugged in there, right. a heat lamp, a fan, a TV.
Oh my gosh.
And,
wow.
And that's where I was. And finally, like at this point, our last car had broken down and we were just like, this is it. We're done.
Like, what are we doing?
And fortunately, from her previous experience being sober, she knew Mike Ray, who I was telling you about, mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
And she was able to pull some strings, and she went to detox, and she went to one treatment center. She went to the Haven. I went to 7th Street. I went to 7th Street the day before she went to Haven the very next day.
Jeez.
And that, that was what started it. So that was May 7th of 2019. I went to 7th Street. I made it a total of 5 days there before I got kicked out. We thought it was a really good idea to sew up some Suboxone in a teddy bear and bring it into the treatment center because of course they wouldn't know.
They won't check.
They won't check. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so 4 or 5 days into it, I ripped the teddy bear apart, find what I was looking for, but I left all the stuffing and the torn up bear under my bed. So when they did room checks, they found this and they said, what the heck is this? What is going on here?
Right.
Kicked me out the next day, maybe it was 2 days later, and I had to go to the VOA. I had no idea what the VOA was. And man, that was the humbling experience that I needed. That was it. It was a very rough place. I left and went out and found a way to, keep going for a couple more times. And then I'll never forget, it was May 16th and I'm wandering the streets and I was downtown and I was by the library and I see all these other people, there was some type of festival going on and I see all of them smiling and having fun and I could barely even stand. I was 60, 70 pounds less than I am right now. Jeez. Just completely skeleton. Wow. And I said, this is it. I'm done. And I crawled my way back to the VOA and I kept trying to get back into 7th Street and they're like, Alex, we're not letting you back in after that weird stuff, know? Yeah. And so Odyssey House came and they said, we have tons of rooms, you can come tomorrow. And I said, okay, perfect. And I'd heard all these horror stories that Odyssey House was this big scary program, but I was so done. I said, I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how long I'm there. I'm just going to go and I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. And so I went there. My wife stayed at Haven the whole time. She stayed sober. She went to the sober living. I stayed at Odyssey House. I was there a couple months. I went to my sober living through the state funded voucher. We got out, we got back together, we got our apartment and she's 5.5 years sober. I'm 5.5 years sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't hear that very often where you do it together.
Super rare.
It's
super rare and not very recommended either.
It's not recommended.
It's not recommended.
I've been doing this for 35 years. I can count on maybe one hand where it's worked.
Yeah. Yep.
So congrats to you guys. Congrats to your wife.
Thank you.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
What a story. And we hear what's going on and it's amazing. Like, I'm sure you look back and go, how you were just in the darkest of despair, but yet you're like, I'm just going to keep going.
Keep going.
I know this seems like an obvious question or an obvious answer to this question, but were you ever just like, I'm going to die. It's over. Yeah. Like I'm just, or maybe you wanted to die. I don't know.
Yeah. That crossed my mind many, many times. I never was at the point where I was like, I'm going to end this myself, and unfortunately that happens a lot. I'm very, very blessed that did not happen to me where that thought actually crossed my mind. Mm-hmm. But I knew that I was walking a very, very tight line, very, very thin. And, fortunately there was a couple of miracles that happened. One was I am terrified of needles, and needles was never a part of my story. Not at all. It was always, either through the nose or through the mouth, Right. So if needles would have been a part of my story, I don't think I'd probably be here. we also got out right before the fentanyl really kind of took over, like it is, unfortunately, today. Yeah. That was just barely getting around, and we kind of, heard about it through the grapevine, but it wasn't as widespread as it is now. And so those two things, were a blessing in disguise because they kept me alive, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of my friends who are clean today say the same thing, man. Thankfully, fentanyl wasn't around because I would have done it.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't be here.
Yep.
Fentanyl's, killing so many people, unfortunately.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks for sharing those details, because it really paints a picture.
Yeah.
And, seeing you today, I mean, you look fantastic. And you'd never guess that was your life, right?
Yeah.
The beautiful thing is, if we do make it out of it, and I say if because a lot of people don't.
Big if. Yep.
But here you are, and you've turned your life around, which is fantastic. I know health and fitness is a big part of your life now. You're obviously a trainer, and you've got your own program and things like that. How did the fitness part of it play in your recovery?
So the background with sports, up until, and I even tried to go to the gym, when I was messed up, and it was a sight for sore eyes.
That doesn't work very well.
It was a sight for sore eyes. But I knew, and the couple times that I really tried to, to kick it, that's what I would do is, even if I didn't have money for a gym, I would be doing push-ups, in my mom's house. Yeah. And that was, I knew that was something that I could fall back on. And I remember as soon as I got out of sober living, I called my old boss, and he's a very amazing guy to give me the chances that he had. First day out of sober living, I called him and I said, can I have my old job back as a moving company? And so I had a job immediately right out of sober living, which was also very, very big.
Very rare.
Very rare. Well. Yeah. And I remember the very first paycheck that I got a gym membership for me and my fiance at the time, now wife, to Planet Fitness. And I said, this is going to help. And she had kind of been to the gym. She didn't really know a lot about it.
What do we do?
But that was, the very first thing that we bought, outside. And when you get sober, you have so much money, because it's like even a paycheck of $1,000, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all this money?
I'm not blowing it on all this stuff over here.
Yeah.
I'm rich.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like I said, the very first thing coming out, and even through, what was also challenging is we got sober in 2019 May. The pandemic hit, 8 months later after we got sober. Yeah. Meetings shut down. Yep. Community shut down. Connection shut down. A
lot of therapy.
And so so me and my wife really had to lean on each other. During that, it could have gone the other way. Fortunately, it didn't. A lot of people started drinking and started, finding ways to numb because it was such a scary, weird, unknown time.
For sure.
We stayed strong. It was just us, and we found the little meetings that we could. We found, some of the other recovery groups that we were a part of. We leaned heavily on that, but the gym was honestly like the thing that we were leaning on.
Grace.
Planet Fitness is, of course, shut down. We found this Anytime Fitness that was right by our house.
I know.
And I kept driving by it during the pandemic. Everything else shut down, and they had a board up on their wall, or on their door, and I kept seeing cars in the parking lot. And I asked my wife, I said, I swear that place is open. And she's like, no, everything's shut down, especially gyms has to. So I'm going to go check it out. And sure enough, the owners had decided we're going to stay open. Everyone was wearing masks in there. Everyone had to sanitize everything like crazy. Sure. And it's very hard to work out in a mask, but it was better than nothing,
Right.
And so we had found the gym, and that was it for us, And so I found a way to funnel that addictive personality that I have into obsessing about getting really healthy and really fit and in really good shape.
Well, and even going back to the lessons you learned about hard work from your mom and dad, and just you know, growing up in playing sports, to be good at it, you got to work your butt off and that kind of thing. And so, wow, what a story! And congrats to you and your wife.
Thank you
for doing what you're doing and moving forward in this. Much respect.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I wanted to ask a couple questions. If, looking back, obviously it's easy to look back and go, I should have done this, I should have done that. Was there a time where you're like, I had so many opportunities, yet I know you've shared a few, but you just like literally ignored them along the path?
Yeah.
Like, do you look back and go, man, I could have had that opportunity. I had that opportunity.
I do, but if I think too much about it, I start to beat myself up.
Gotcha.
One of the things that I truly believe of the man that I am today I wouldn't be who I am without going through everything that I did. The level of gratitude that I have is unbelievable. The level of compassion I have towards other people that are in recovery is unlike anything else.
Yeah.
I see things in a completely different way, and I truly believe that I had to go through it the way of course I wish that it was different, that I could have done things different, but we all can do that, whether or not we're an addict or alcoholic or not. There's always things you want to change in the past.
Absolutely,
but I wouldn't be the man that I am today without that experience. Because of that, it's truly, made me who I am.
Amen. I love that. I wanted to share a quote with you, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
Okay. I love it.
It's by James Allen. He's famous for writing As a Man Thinketh.
Yes.
He's one of my heroes.
Okay.
He was a huge part of my recovery, still is. And I want to share a statement that he made, and I want to hear what you think about it. Okay. And here's how it goes. When one has reached the lowest point of sorrow, when weak and exhausted and overcome with a sense of powerlessness, he cries to God for help, and there comes no answering comfort and no succor. Then, discovering the painfulness of sorrow and the insufficiency of prayer alone, he's ready to enter the path of self-renunciation, ready to purify his heart, ready to practice self-control, ready to become a spiritual athlete, and to develop that divine and invincible strength which is born of self-mastery. What do you think of that?
That's powerful.
Right?
That's powerful. I
know there's a lot there to unpack, but what do you feel about, obviously self-mastery?
Yep.
I mean, that's really what you do in fitness. You're learning to master yourself. It's what you do in your AA community. You're learning to master, controlling your urges and things like that.
Totally.
So just thoughts on that.
The takeaway from it, and I know that it mentions God in there, is finding a way to truly be humbled enough that you don't let your ego run the show. And selfishness and and self-centeredness is really at the forefront of that disease. And being finding a way to be self-mastered on your daily thoughts and your daily actions and what you do is really, it's how you get through this disease. The old cliche, one day at a time, 20, today. You hear that in meetings every single time, and the reason why you hear it is because that's all we have, and that's all we can focus on, and if you can master like what you're doing today, whether it's through routine. I'm a big routine guy. I think a lot of us that do the routines usually have some very good success with it. That's self-mastery. It's being disciplined, to do the hard things, to do the stuff that you think are redundant, that you think are repetitive, and doing it day in and day out. And once they become a habit, you start to see some really positive changes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Thank you.
If there's someone listening to you right now, Alex, who's in a dark place, they're lost and they're not sure what to do, and they are in despair, what would you tell that one person right now listening to you?
I would say more than anything that you're not alone. You're not alone, and that there is hope for everyone. A lot of people that this disease and life in general, our society is really crazy right now. And a lot of people feel isolated. They feel alone. They feel like they're the only people dealing with whatever they're dealing with. I would say just reach out to someone, find someone, pull your hand out, drop your ego, drop the pride, and just ask for help, especially as men. we have a hard time asking for help. Still to this day, my wife will tell you that all the time, that I have a hard time asking for help, and I'm 100% guilty of it. But to answer your question, it's just realize that you're not alone, and that there is help out there if you are willing to accept it and look for it.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that, because I can guarantee you there's someone listening to this right now that's in that place. So thank you for sharing that. I totally agree with you. Reach out. I know you're there for them. I'm there for you as well, guys. Please reach out. If someone does want to reach out to you, Alex, and learn more about what you do, learn more about your program that you do and your training and stuff like that, what's the best way for someone to touch base with you?
So I am on social media. In addition to working at Treehouse, I do have my own online fitness business.
Right.
And so my social media is probably the easiest way. I do have a website. I called it Big Smooth Training. Big Smooth was actually a name that I got from playing basketball with Matt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that was the
Smooth.
Nickname. Yeah. And it's for whatever reason that name is stuck. And then my wife found it. She's like, that's the name of your business. So Big Smooth Training.
And what's your social handles?
It is Alex Fred Fit on Instagram.
Okay.
It's under Alex Fredrickson on Facebook, and then I believe on TikTok it's Big Smooth Training.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you can get a hold of me with then any type of fitness questions, any type of health questions, any type of addiction questions, anything at all. I'm always willing to help out any way that I can. Sometimes I can't solve it, but I probably know someone that can help if I can't.
I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I encourage everyone listening to reach out to you, ask you a question. If you have a son or a daughter or a family member who's in a dark place, you're not sure what to do, reach out to Alex. I'm sure he will help guide you. And if he doesn't have the answer, he'll find someone that does.
I'd love to.
I know you would. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And again, thank you for reaching out to me. And it really is an honor to sit here with you. Hearing your story firsthand really inspires me. And I have so much respect for people who are in the depths of despair and they do what it takes to pull themselves out of it. Yeah. Obviously, we need help to do that, which you did. Yeah. But you still have to do your part. Yeah. So I just want you to know I have a lot of respect for you and your wife. And congrats to your success.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go, guys. Alex Fredrickson. Please reach out to him. I'll have his handles and his website in the show notes. You'll be able to click right to it and go right to him. And thank you for tuning in. As always, please share this, as you always do, with your loved ones. Again, if you really have someone struggling with, and it doesn't have to be addiction, it could be anything, send them a link to this episode. It will open up a conversation and it'll break the ice and you'll be able to get them some help. So thanks for tuning in. And one last thank you to Alex. Mad respect for you. And here's to your continued success.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Take care, everyone. Love you guys.